Criticisms of the Trump campaign has been that he's brought in only loyalists at the expense of experience, and that some of the people that he's had around him are not necessarily the most talented or experienced in their fields, and that he's just rewarding loyalty. If he reaches out, and you're suggesting that this is real, if he reaches out to Mitt Romney and puts him in that senior position, that would say something about his management style. But I think it's also some, foreign policy management, Mika knows this, is a little bit about temperament.
Right.
And we are living in a world full of crises. And some of the people, like Michael Flynn, that he's brought into the White House, are hot. These are hot people. Well, you need a little bit of cool to moderate that. And Mitt Romney would signal to the world that there was somebody there who was measured and was going to not necessarily do things out of some ideological conviction that were rash.
Right. That's exactly what I've been saying. He's the disruptor in the middle. He does not need Giuliani's and Bolton's disrupting all the outside. He needs people that are steady.
It looks like he's got Flynn.
And by the way, and again, Flynn, let's talk about General Flynn.
Well, it's confirmed. It's getting close to confirmed.
General Flynn makes the appointment of somebody who is temperamentally sound like Mitt Romney. All the more important.
Although whether Romney would have the weight, you know that there have been secretaries of state who have not had the ear of the White House, right?
Like John Kerry? Yeah, I do.
And Michael Flynn, or Colin Powell, for example, necessarily.
And Colin Powell as well.
Michael Flynn clearly will have President Trump's ear, and he's very close to him, and that, I think, signals to me is a better signal for what direction Donald Trump wants to go than putting Mitt Romney in.
By the way, I can't. The one thing I have learned about Donald Trump, and Mika and I have over the past 10 or 11 years, he cares about who got him good information last, and who got him bad information. If you get Donald Trump bad information and you embarrass him, you go to the back of the line very quickly. He's very loyal right now to General Flynn because of what happened during the campaign. But the one thing I've known about Trump's management style is, it's based on performance. He's not like, Bush 41. Well, I was in Skull and Bones with him at Yale 50 years ago. I can't fire him. No, it's not that way.
But, this pair of appointments, by the way, if they are appointments, Romney and Flynn, kind of raises some questions about policy with Russia, right? So Flynn
another really good balance.
Well, a balance or a schizophrenia, right? So Romney is the guy who came out and said that, kind of Putin is our #1 foe,
right?
And Flynn has appeared on the, a propaganda network for Russia. And so what direction?
For Putin.
Yeah, exactly. So what direction is he going to take on Russia? It's not clear.
Who's he going to listen to?
Yeah.
Well, hopefully you get all sides.
Another interesting thing on Romney, people have said, how could Mitt Romney take this job after all the terrible things he said? Well, he's taking it perhaps because of the very things he said, which he believes that maybe Donald Trump needs some moderation, and it's an act of patriotism to step in and maybe get between Donald Trump and the rest of the world and impose his worldview on it. So those two things are not mutually exclusive. Going out and making that speech about Donald Trump and saying he's not equipped to handle it, maybe that's why Mitt Romney would take the job.
And it sends a signal as one of Donald Trump's toughest critics to everybody else in lower cabinet levels. Hey, I'm putting this behind me for the good of the country. I'm behind the president-elect. You need to do the same thing.
I'm bringing in the highest quality. So here's the news we do know so far. A senior campaign transition official confirms that President-elect Trump has asked Lieutenant General Michael Flynn to serve as his national security advisor. Flynn had Trump's ear on national security matters during the campaign, and he has helped drive the president-elect's policy on his approach to Russia, as well as his posture against Islamic terror. Flynn has had a collegial relationship with Vladimir Putin, shown here seated next to Putin during an event celebrating the 10th anniversary of RT, which is the state-backed Russian broadcaster. Flynn has also made some controversial comments in the past, like this tweet from February. Fear of Muslims is rational. Please forward this to others. The truth fears no questions. He also later apologized after retweeting an anti-Semitic tweet this past July, and is known a little bit as pretty much a hothead. Is that a...
Well, you know what, so there's actually, from all the reports I've seen, Caddy, it's interesting, there's a tale of two General Flynns.
Yeah.
There's a General Flynn that Barack Obama appointed, the General Flynn who got some pretty high marks running intel for defense, and then there's the tweeting General Flynn that has caused a lot of concerns.
Twitter is a No,
Flynn
clearly,
is a real
in our
problem.
political
Shut
leaders,
down all the
really,
accounts.
It's not worth
It's
it.
not helpful.
Yeah.
General Flynn, who was actually moved out by Barack Obama in 2014 because of disagreements over intel policy, since he's come out, even amongst his peers, he's raised a lot of eyebrows. There's a trip to Russia, for example, which was organized by his speaking agency. He turns up, he sits next to Vladimir Putin. That was seen as an endorsement of Vladimir Putin. But he also has with him, who is his chief of staff, his son, who has propagated conspiracy theories online. Somebody who has said that Marco Rubio, for example, was addicted to cocaine and used to have wild parties. And you have to look at the people surround themselves with, right? And if General Flynn keeps his son, who has been really quite extreme in some of the things he's said and done and posted online, with him when he comes into the White House, that's not a reassuring sign.
Yeah. Well, and also, there's a cumulative effect, Nick, of all of this. There's the Steve Bannon controversy that blew up. It seems to be dying down a bit. But now you have General Flynn with some insensitive remarks. And we know Jeff Sessions coming up, most likely for Attorney General, said things in his past that were racially insensitive as well. And you create, again, this narrative that continues to move forward. Now, I had no doubt that Flynn was going to be picked. And I don't think anybody else did either. And I'm sure Sessions is going to get whatever Sessions wants. But again, I think this underlines the point that if you're going to get a couple of loyalists that have said some crackpot things in the past, you sure as hell better have some very steady hands at state, at defense, and at Treasury, or this goes into a full-blown meltdown. And listen to them, or this goes into a full-blown meltdown, as bad as Bill Clinton's in 1993 when he took office.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm paying close attention to this 10 appointments between the people who are with Trump in the campaign and the people who are not. It's a team of rivals, right? When he was running, the party apparatus kind of ran away from him in terms of the intellectuals and the experts. And the people who stuck with him are the ones now in line for these top jobs. And the question is, has Trump got the confidence to bring the people like Mitt Romney, who might allay some of the people who were kind of worried about his judgment and temperament? It's the big question, Joe.
So a couple of other updates on this before we get to break. Yesterday, the Trump campaign banned state and federal lobbyists from joining the administration.
Now, that's big news.
It is, and will require staffers to pledge not to lobby for 5 years after leaving government.
This is massive news, and there are already some people whining out there, Willie, saying, well, that's going to make it a lot less likely for good people to serve in government. Well, good. Yeah, I mean, good if those, quote, good people only want to go in to make money when they get out.
Yeah, this is something that people have called for a long time, and now they haven't had the guts to do it. Now Donald Trump's actually doing it. Let's give him credit.
Great move.
And also Newt Gingrich is apparently out. He tells NBC News he won't be in the cabinet. Quote, I want to focus on strategic planning for the emerging Republican majority from local government through the executive branch.
This also suggests, Mika, again, Donald Trump knows when hot blows too hot.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of talk about, the Secretary of State talk has been outrageous. And now that Trump is actually talking to serious people for Secretary of State, all of the reporters that put the bad names out at first are saying, oh, he's just putting up trial balloons. No, Newt Gingrich was never going to be Secretary of State.
Yeah. Well,
and the reporters that put that out and put Bolton out, and they're now coming back on, well, he's floating these trial balloons, and he's just trying. No, actually, it's
only
not.
Trump knows who will get these.
Exactly.
He's the last guy in the room.
That's what
to
Mika
take Mark
said.
Halperin's statement from yesterday. I love it.
That was what you said. I thought
Mark
you said
it yesterday, and I am
the last guy in the room is Donald Trump, and all of these reporters saying it's this person. No, you're dead wrong. It's not. I love this whole, because Reagan had this problem. The last person that talked to Reagan was the person that had most influence. That's just not the case with Donald Trump.
It's true that all it takes in Washington to have your name floated is to find a reporter who will float your name.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and if you're Rudy, you'll announce yourself. Okay.
Well, unless you're Rudy, I mean,
or float yourself.
And you actually get one of those Cessna airplanes that have Rudy for Secretary of State. You go up and down Fifth Avenue. This has been the most shameless. This has been the most shameless lobbying effort for a position, trying to corner somebody and back a president-elect in the corner, and he couldn't have done it to a worse
Donald
guy.
Trump?
Shameless and strategically dumb.
Yeah.
If you know Donald Trump, he's not not going to go for that.
Who thinks Donald Trump is so weak that he can be bullied into picking somebody, especially somebody that, you know, has made money giving speeches to former terrorists?
Reaches out to Mitt Romney and puts him in that senior position, that would say something about his management style. But I think it's also some, you know, foreign policy management, Mika knows this, is a little bit about temperament.
Right.
And we are living in a world full of crises, and some of the people, like Michael Flynn, that criticisms of the Trump campaign has been that he's brought in only loyalists at the expense of experience, and that some of the people that he's had around him are not necessarily the most talented or experienced in their fields, and that he's just rewarding loyalty. If he reaches out and you're suggesting that this is real, if he rash, perhaps.
That's exactly what I've been saying. He's the disruptor in the middle. He does not need Giuliani's and Bolton's disrupting on the outside. He needs people that are steady.
It looks like he's got Flynn.
And by the way, and again, Flynn, let's talk about General Flynn.
Well, it's confirmed. It's getting close to confirmed.
General Flynn makes the appointment of somebody who is temperamentally sound like Mitt Romney all the more important.
Although whether Romney would have the weight, you know that there have been secretaries of state who have brought into the White House are hot. These are hot people. Well, you need a little bit of cool to moderate that. And Mitt Romney would signal to the world that there was somebody there who was measured and was going to not necessarily do things out of some ideological conviction that were